I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to, I was going to check, but I know it's over 300. It might be 350 episodes of the Business Renovator. So if you're here today, thank you for being here. But before I get into that, today is about how inclusive leaders keep their employees engaged and productive. In the time allotted that we have, we will touch on that subject with our esteemed guest. But back to what we do first. So if you're watching this live, thank you for being here. If you're watching it on the replay, remember, we appreciate having a hashtag replay. Let us know where you're watching. If you have a question or a comment that's relevant to what we're talking about, or if you want to introduce somebody who would be a great guest, we can make that happen. Just send an email to phil@coachphil.ca and we'll make that happen. Also, I have a shameless plug, kind of my self-sponsored moment. So I'm going to put that on for you. This is about business coaching. And it is free, complimentary. There is no credit card required. It is available through coachphil.ca. Click on the top right-hand corner where it says Business Growth Score. You can do your own assessment. In addition to that, if you've captured this access point from watching the Business Renovator, let us know, and there's a complimentary coaching session, 30 minutes with a business coach. And if I don't know the answer to your question, I'm affiliated with a whole network of global represented business coaches that we can direct you to. So take advantage of that. So here we are, another episode, another esteemed guest, and it's about how inclusive leaders keep their employees engaged and productive. So through many adventures over the decades, my guest, Dea Irby, is a TEDx speaker, an award-winning author, has learned that building community is the most valuable aspect of leadership. She is on a mission to share her message of belonging. She has been married to her retired pastor husband for almost 50 years, has 8 grown children, and just 19 grandchildren. I think she probably knows a thing about community and staying connected, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to bring Dea up. Welcome to the Business Renovator, and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Coach Phil. And what a great offering you have to help people with their business if they need a focal point. That's great. Everybody listening should take advantage of that assessment.
I agree. So we got connected by being part of a community beyond, because we're both in 2 different countries, and the person that introduced this knows both of us, but we didn't know each other. So that's part of the connecting and being part of a community, whether you're in a leadership role running a business or organization, maybe a church, a hockey team, a football team, right?
Right, exactly. And networking, your network is your net worth.
Yeah, totally agree.
So yeah, you got to build community around that.
So where did your journey start? I mean, we can't get into the weeds of that, but what kicked you off?
Interesting you talk about weeds. No. So, well, I tell people I'm from South America because I grew up in Mississippi. I've lived in Alabama, 2 places in Georgia, and 2 places in Florida. And if you know your U.S. geography, that is South America. But I grew up in a very small Mississippi town. Now, I'm sure there's towns that are smaller, but we only had 5,000 people. And I can distinctly remember, you mentioned weeds. I can remember sitting in the grass in the front yard of Miss Annie's preschool with my classmates. We were making pink clover necklaces. What's significant about that is they're the same people I graduated from high school with. And I grew up thinking that my normal, my experience of belonging and having an anchor and an identity, that's what everybody had, is because we all think whatever we start with is what everybody, we only see the world from our perspective. So we think that's the way everybody sees the world. And then I got married and my husband graduated from seminary and we moved 13 hours away from anything or anybody I knew. And it was like culture shock. That was the first time I felt that pain of isolation, that having no place to put an anchor, not belonging. And when I would say hey to somebody or introduce myself to someone, I wasn't getting the, hey, how's your mom and them? If you're not from the South, I know you're in Canada, that means how is your mother and all of your relatives, until every one of them I said hello. There was no community. And then I realized the impact that having a community can have and not having a community. So over our years of serving, over 40 years of serving churches, building a family, having all their friends come in, I'm all about building community. Then I stepped out. I was a stay in the van mom. I don't believe stay at home moms. You're in the van all the time. When I went out into the business world and owned my restaurant, where now I'm a real estate agent, the business world needs belonging because the business world is made up of people. And according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your base is food, clothing, and shelter. Next comes security. And then if you're going to grow or move forward, you have to have a sense of belonging.
Yeah, I wanted to fast forward to today, just because it's relevant. I was talking to somebody the other day in person, and because of the pandemic and technology and all that other stuff, I think what you're talking about is even more pertinent today globally, because we're doing this. I mean, this is great. You and I get to meet and don't have to travel, and makes economics, and we can share some ideas and maybe help somebody along the way. But what they talked about today, Dea, or not today, but this week, was that they just don't feel right. And some companies want you to work 24/7 just because you're working from home using technology. Wow. You're talking about older values that are, and I'm talking about today, and I'm sure you can address this as well with your own experience, that there's a disconnection, and the community connection is not, certainly, I didn't grow up in a 5,000, I've been in small places, but not quite that small. So that's an interesting insight. What would you say you've learned from, like, going from where you were, we're fast forwarding to today in today's technology? What have you come up with? What have you experienced?
Well, I know that we're online all the time, so I say we're consumed with meetings.
Consumed, I love it.
We are consumed. It is more important than ever that people feel included. People don't just want to be connected, they want to be claimed. Just like, why do you think, no matter how dangerous or illegal it is, why are kids drawn to street gangs? Simple. Community. They feel claimed. And this answer of, the subtitle of Claim Your People at Work, how inclusive leaders keep their employees engaged and productive.
Mm-hmm.
It's by creating a culture of belonging. belonging boosts the bottom line. And you may think if you're in business, well, we just, it's business. You just do your job and you get paid. And we don't want any kumbaya, huggy, kissy, belonging stuff. This is business. Oh, no, contraire. There was a study done that compared a business that had a culture of belonging to businesses that didn't. And if a company has a culture of belonging, it increases productivity by 58%. That's going to boost your bottom line. It decreases employee turnover by 50%. You're saving boatloads of money because you're not having to recruit and train and build them up. And depending on what position that person that left was holding, you could pay 2 to 8 times their salary just to get them replaced. So if you can keep good people, then you're boosting your bottom line.
Yeah, totally. I had a client in 2021. I was delivering we did it all virtually because of the pandemic. His leadership team wanted to have a training program delivered to bring everybody together because they were not a new company, but they were a new region. So they're opening up Western Canada with this company. And one of the guys had been in the industry for 24 years, never had $1 million a month of sales ever. Now, since that time, he's had 5 that I know of, maybe more. But one of the things he was kind enough to do was to give feedback and a testimonial. One of the things I'm really stoked about is that he said, I've never gone through a sales training program where, and it's talking about what you're talking about, Dea, where that if we were happy at home, we'd be happy at work. And if we're happy at work, we'll be happier at home. So that's kind of some of the things we talked about. I helped them experience. And for those that, without going into woo-woo-ness, but to get into the state of, I really like what I'm doing and I'm really happy with what I'm doing at home and the company supports what I'm doing. So the culture is, they have turnover, but it's a minimal turnover and people stay. And this company is growing exponentially across Canada. Started in Montreal a whole bunch of years ago, and now it's spread at wings and it's got great people. And to your point, it adds to the bottom line and the top line and to the psyche line, which we don't talk a lot about.
Right. Well, Zig Ziglar says you don't build businesses, you build people.
Yeah.
And people build businesses. So I categorize the culture of companies in colors. And I ask, what color is your company? I use the colors of a traffic light. Is it red, meaning it's on fire in a bad way? People are running from it. The only people that run to a fire are firemen. You get smoke inhalation. It's toxic. It's at a dead stop. It's not going forward. And the red light is somewhat symbolic of the Great Resignation. People were running from their jobs. Maybe they were forced to work remotely and said, hey, I don't want to go back. It's like a kidnapped person that gets out from under their captor and suddenly they can get over the Stockholm syndrome.
Mm.
The yellow light is that you don't know what's going on. You're very cautious. It's not going really forward, maybe slowly, but you don't know if you're about to stop and hit red. And this is somewhat symbolic of the quiet quitters. They show up, they do it. That's all. They're not really engaged. They don't see the point except for the money that they're going to get. So that's the yellow. The green is where people want to be, because in a green environment, you have growth. There's oxygen, like green plants. You can breathe there. And green is a color of money. So, it's healthy. And the third statistic from that survey of comparing companies with belonging and not belonging was the one that I was most impressed with. if you have a culture of belonging in your company, there is a 75% decrease in employee sick days. So they show up for work. That belonging is going to boost your bottom line exponentially. So why would people be using sick days so much? Well, can you think of some reasons why so many sick days would be used? I can think of two particular ones, but what do you think?
Oh, they're not happy. They're stressed out. They don't feel significant. They're disempowered, not empowered. Those are just a few that come off the top of my head.
Well, two categories of, have you ever wanted to do something, but you had a headache, but you really wanted to do it, but you did it anyway? Or maybe you had a sore muscle, but you did it anyway because you really wanted to. But if you didn't want to, then all of a sudden, oh, but this is so painful. I can't do what I want to do. I can't go do that thing. That's one of the reasons that people don't show up at work, because they'll find any excuse or any reason to use a sick day. The other one is, if you have a toxic environment, just like the elements you mentioned, a person will get sick. If we're in a high stress situation, it shows up physically and we are sick. Your body, your resistance is down and you're more susceptible to whatever's going around. If you don't have a positive attitude, your negative attitude will cause your body to not be healthy. So if you have a toxic environment, people are going to get sick.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is there's Sean Aker, who's a positive psychology psychologist, and he's pointed out that all of us, generally speaking, have all of us have an amygdala, but it's how it reacts. And the amygdala is the fight and flight. And I like what you're talking about, have to versus get to. And I'm an advocate of that. It's your choice how you want to show up. Sometimes if it's the culture they're in, though, it's hard to keep a positive, I want to be here, because the culture's not ready. That's a good point. Well, going back to the amygdala, what Dr. Aker talks about, he says we have 75% of the time, we default and look at the negatives, which means in order to look and be in a healthier state of mind, we are challenged to have 3 positives for every negative. So that can be a lot of work, because if we're 75% of the time, the amygdala kicks in and tries to protect us from the saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly.
There's effort in it.
Exactly. So true. And it's consistently true. Here is the challenge, though. How inclusive the subtitle is how inclusive leaders keep their people engaged and productive. It's by building that culture of belonging. And who is in charge of the color that shows up on the traffic light? Who controls the lights? It's the leader. It's the leader that, and I'm going to mix metaphors. You're probably not supposed to do this, but I am.
It's okay. It's allowed.
It's allowed. Okay. Thank you for that permission. The leader is the thermostat. So if you look around and everybody's got a fever, or everybody's hot, or the atmosphere is toxic, who set the thermostat on hot? You have to cool it down. And I have this 5-facet strategy of claim, which helps you build your culture of belonging that helps you reset your thermostat. I saw that firsthand as I was, had a house full of little people, and they would be all wild and crazy and hyped up about something. I would have to go, okay, wait, I set the tone in the home. And it's the same thing at work, because guess what? At work, there are people, and people have people needs. People are people, and leaders need to see people as people, not just assets.
Right. Do you've heard the letter CEO? It's like a C-suite, the chief. The
Oh, yes.
So what would you, If I said to speak it out, what would it stand for? CEO.
CEO, Chief Executive Officer?
Yeah. What I like what you're talking about, though, is we're going to switch that. I'm going to share this over the airwaves. And I don't remember where I heard it, but I love it. I heard it a bunch of years ago. And what I'm hearing you say is that the CEO is an important position, but from a chief encouragement officer's point of view versus a chief executive officer's point of view. And I find the companies that have a CEO that has an encouraging spirit in them, they breathe spirit into the minds of the people that they lead. And in that, you were saying, Zig said, if you build the people will build the business. I think the businesses that are thriving and in turbulent times, not to say they don't have potholes and obstacles that they need to manage and get around, but they do it better than those that are chief executive officers, top down, very Newtonian, my way or the highway. The chief encouragement officers recognize that their team, they get the right people on the right seat of the bus, and they're there. Going back to what you say, they want to do it versus have to do it.
Right. And, I saw a quote one time that said, managers make their people feel like the managers are important. A leader makes the people feel like they're important. And that's exactly what you're talking about. The chief encouragement officer needs to be setting the thermostat, creating the culture. And I know we probably can't go into the whole thing, but I do have this acrostic claim that teaches, if you take these different facets, these different strategies to reach out to lead your people, you will claim your people, and they will feel a culture being developed in the workplace. If we have time to quickly go over what each of these letters stands for, do we?
Yeah, we've got a few minutes we can do that with. Absolutely. And while you do that, I'm going to share a screen here. You carry on.
Okay. The C, and Robert, I appreciate your comments you're making in the making an interaction there. C, if a leader wants to help your people feel claimed, you need to let them know that they're chosen. You choose your people, how you recruit them, how you hire them. You choose them to do particular projects. You choose your people. The L stands for people want to know that they're loved. And in the workplace, what's love got to do with it? Well, that's a good song title. We had to write a song. No, there already is one. There are 2,000 song titles with love in it, and over 1 million songs that have the theme. Love has everything to do with it. And in the workplace, this love is offering security and a safe environment where people know that they can approach their leader and say, I have this situation, I have this recommendation, whatever. You're approachable. You're giving them a loving, safe environment, love in spite of, not because of. That keeps you from showing favoritism. The A, people want to know they're acknowledged. And this is more than just their accomplishments. They want to know that you see them, you hear them, and you empower them. So people want to know they're acknowledged. And you can simply do this by looking people in the eye and using their name, coach. Using their name acknowledges that you see them there. And the I, I'm going to come back to a story. The I is people want to know they're invested in. Invested in monetarily, nothing wrong with a bonus or a raise, but invested in with resources and training, and most importantly, time. Doug Conant, in the beginning of 2000, took over the Campbell Soup Company, which was failing. It was almost off the charts, going down. And he came in and he acknowledged individuals. He invested time in every one of them and wrote handwritten notes to people like, Mary, thank you for your contributions. You're really making a difference here. Or to the floor sweeper. He wrote, over the 10 years he spent turning the company around, he wrote 30,000 notes, handwritten notes to people. He was investing the time in them. He acknowledged what they were doing. They felt that they were in a safe environment. He was showing love to them because he chose them to write a note. And lastly, the M, people want to know they're made for greatness. And as a leader, when you encourage them to use their gifts and their abilities and their specific, what they bring to the table, their knowledge, their experiences, when you help them be all that they're supposed to be, that makes them know that they're made for greatness. And when each of us is acting in our greatness, the next M is we make a difference. And bottom line, people want to know that they matter. I have 3 for M because it's so amazing. That is a brief discussion. Each one of those has applications. And thank you for showing the book, Claim. This goes into each one more fully, has more illustrations of application of this, exercises you can do, and also how you can communicate. This is a community that you belong to, and you're important to us, and we recognize you. So, yes,
Exactly.
in a sea of humanity.
So I'm just sharing a couple of things I did share. Look up there that they can go to Amazon whatever country you're in and go get it if they want to dive into it deep themselves. And then the other place I got them looking at is your website, so they can go and find out some more great stuff about you. Just there's a URL right at the bottom that they can go to. And one other place I'd like to point them to is here. Watch me transition like I know what I'm doing.
Ooh, look at you, Coach.
I lost my mouse. So where did it go? It's not cooperating. So what we're pointing at here, guys and gals, is the LinkedIn point. And I lost here. I can see it. There it is. Where it's gone now. And it decided to come back to work. I guess I got to show more value to my poor mouse. I'm sorry, mouse. Anyway, yes, you can go to LinkedIn and learn more and actually connect with Dea there. And if you liked what you heard, there's a couple of places you can go. And if you don't want to go to the website, you can just go buy the book. And if you go to her website, I believe I can get back to that. Here we go. There are complimentary resources, as well as you can go and invest in things. Like that's where I got, well, yeah, here's the books. There's more than just the Claim book, but you can go there and get some stuff as well. That's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Hey, you're welcome. I like what you're talking about. We're on the same path. We say it differently because you're from South America and I'm from North America. I'm kitty corner. Well, from where you were talking about, I'm northwest of where you're at, where you were at, and we don't say y'all. I'll tell you a funny little story. I played hockey as a Canadian kid. A lot of us do, not everybody, but a lot of us did and do. And we went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to play in a hockey tournament, of all places. Who would have thought, right? They'd have hockey in Oklahoma, but they did. And we're at the airport and we're staying with billets. So billets are places where it makes it more economical for a team of 18 people to go hang out and afford to be able to play a crazy game of hockey. We're at the airport and they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to call your name, and when we call it, you come with. They didn't say. Anyways, they called out the first two was my name and Kelly's name, and they say, y'all come with us. So we all 18 of us, we're from Canada. We never said y'all.
It's all y'all means
that's
everybody.
Right. That's
all
everybody.
Y'all.
But we took it literally. Y'all. That's got to be all of us. That was a funny
introduction to the Southern language.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Actually, and they do that in the northeast or northern part of Michigan. There's an area just there. Probably because they're close to the border, but they also use the A.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they use the one. The other one I've heard that Canadians allegedly say is a boot.
A
Anyway,
boot, yes.
boot.
It's all a boot.
Exactly. That's what makes community interesting. You know, one of the things that I'm going to go back over a bit of a history. And one of the best lessons I've ever had was when I worked for a large corporation, a global entity. And the people I met, the inclusion and the diversity wasn't something that we had to worry about or talk about. It just happened. We had people from all over the world that came and worked in the area where I live. And then I got to meet others because of the size of the company. And what I liked about all of that, it was learning from other people about what the world's like from their point of view, their color of skin, their languages. One of the fellows was, I forget exactly where his roots were, but he was brown. I don't know if he was from India or somewhere like that. Hell of a nice guy, very intelligent, spoke 5 languages. We had the Winter Olympics in 1988 in Calgary. And he volunteered for the Finnish hockey team to be their interpreter. So the things you learn from other people and the possibilities of what you can do and what people have done or what they're working on is amazing, isn't it?
It totally is. The world is very small. My 8 children have lived on 6 continents, and I've had the privilege of visiting them. And it's amazing the different cultures and just learning how people see the world from their perspective, their culture. It's a far cry from being only in my little bitty 5,000 population town in Mississippi.
Yeah, that's a good wrap up for today's episode. One of my mentors along the way, he's since passed, but when he was teaching, and I still hear him because I have some of his programs still, he said, we act not in accordance as the truth is, but how we perceive it to be. And when I was doing that, I was thinking of him. We have 5 senses, and each one of our 5 senses has blind spots or scotomas, and it's influenced by our family and external. So like I can see some features in my siblings that remind me of aunts or uncles. They move or dance or move the same. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes,
So
yes.
It's true in the companies and the organizations we participate in. There is that culture. Well, it's time to wrap up the show. We could probably have talked easily for another 30 minutes about a wonderful topic about how helping to get leaders to be inclusive with their team and how to get them engaged and more productive. And I think there was a number of tips in there that that are relevant for our audience. I want to thank you for your time and insight. And certainly at a 35,000 foot view, we need to get into the weeds to really figure out all of the details. But again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Coach.
I think that was pretty fantastic. I didn't get all of the things written down, but this is recorded, so I can go back and have a listen. So can you. But some of the things I picked up out of this was the consumed, I'm going to borrow that, build people and the people build your business, a great reminder. The traffic lights, red, green, and yellow. Running away is the red, want to be here is the green, and uncertainty is a yellow. Amazing little way to remind us about how to show up in the groups and organizations we're at. So on that, I'm going to wrap up the show with the last graphic that I like to do, and that's this one, and it kind of ties in with what we're talking about. We want you to be uniquely you and be wonderful. That's what this represents. The you and wonderful is you. So go out and be the best you can be today. And if you're not as best as you were today as you were yesterday, that's okay. You've got another day tomorrow. So do that then. Till next time, I'm Coach Phil, and we'll see you on another episode of the Business Renovator.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm brave.